In 1977, on a butte in the New Mexico desert, a woman named Anna Sofer climbed to where 3 slabs of stone leaned against a cliff. Behind them, someone 1,000 years earlier had carved a spiral into the rock. At noon on the summer solstice, a blade of sunlight slid down and cut that spiral exactly in half. It was a calendar. Within a decade of her finding it, foot traffic shifted the slabs, and the blade never landed the same way again. That butte is in the United States, and it is far from the strangest thing people have left in the ground here. That place makes this list. So do 14 others. A quarter-mile snake of earth, coiled along a ridge that sits on a meteorite crater. A ring of holes cut into solid bedrock, found under a demolished Miami condo. Giant figures scraped into the desert that only resolve from the air. Stick with us to the end, because number 1 is a city once larger than London, with a 100-foot pyramid of earth that emptied so completely the land around it is still called the Vacant Quarter. This channel is about the places history left unexplained. If that is your thing, subscribe. Today we are counting down 15 ancient discoveries in America no one can explain. Number 15. The East Bay Walls. 50 miles of wall nobody signed. In the hills above San Francisco Bay, low stone walls run across the ridgelines. They are built dry, no mortar, from rocks ranging from basketball size to over a ton, standing 3 to 4 feet high. They run in broken sections, some a few yards, some over half a mile. And there is no record of who built them. Spanish settlers said the walls were already there when they arrived. The Olón, who had lived here far longer, said the same. The first newspaper mention, in 1896, called them an unsolved mystery. In 1904, a Berkeley professor blamed ancient Mongolians. Later writers blamed lost continents. The likely answer is dull. 19th century ranchers had endless fieldstone and cheap labor, and stacking walls to markland was ordinary work. Except the walls do not enclose anything. They just run, in fragments, across hills where a fence makes no sense. You can still walk them in the regional parks today, sunk deep and wrapped in lichen. Probably ranch work. But nobody wrote it down, and that small silence is enough to keep people arguing. Number 14. America's Stonehenge. The temple that may be a root cellar. There is a hilltop in Salem, New Hampshire, sold to visitors as a 4,000-year-old astronomical temple. Stone chambers, standing stones, and a grooved slab they call the sacrificial table. The problem is that almost every archaeologist who has examined it says it is a colonial farm. Radiocarbon dating does show people on that land 4,000 years ago, but that is Native American land use, not a date on the stonework. The structures match the homestead of an 18th century shoemaker named Jonathan Patty, whose family quarried and sold stone here. And the dramatic sacrificial table? Its carved channel is identical to the ones colonial New Englanders cut to drain lye when making soap. The lost civilization story came later. In 1937, an antiquarian bought the hill convinced Irish monks built it and rearranged the stones to fit. The Phoenician inscriptions people cite trace to a single 1976 book. It is open today. Admission fee, gift shop, alpaca farm. A colonial farm in the costume of a temple, doing brisk business either way. Number 13. Judaculla Rock. The boulder no one can read. In a pasture in Jackson County, North Carolina, sits a single slab of soapstone covered in more than 1,500 carvings. Stick figures, cup-shaped hollows, curving lines, and 2 hand prints, each with 7 fingers. It is the largest petroglyph site in North Carolina and among the largest east of the Mississippi. In generations of study, no one has read it. The carvings do not form a written language, and nobody knows the order they were made in, because they were made over a very long time. Carvers returned to the same rock, pecking symbol over symbol, until the surface became a crowded palimpsest. That is part of why the dating is unsettled. The state marker gives 500 to 1700 C. Other researchers argue for work more than 3,000 years old. To the Cherokee, the rock belongs to Judaculla, a slant-eyed giant and master of the game animals. The nearby town of Cullowhee takes its name from him, Judaculla's place. In that tradition, the 7-fingered prints are his handprints, and a long line is the edge of his hunting ground. It is the oldest surviving reading of the rock. It is also a legend, not a translation. The site is free to visit today, with a viewing platform interpreted alongside the eastern band of Cherokee Indians. 1,500 marks, cut with care, meant to say something. You can stand right in front of them and not know what. Number 12. Rock Eagle. A bird you can only see from the sky. About an hour southeast of Atlanta, in Putnam County, Georgia, thousands of chunks of milky white quartz lie on the ground in the shape of a giant bird. Wingtip to wingtip, 120 feet. Head to tail, 102. At the breast, it rises about 8 feet. It was built roughly 2,000 years ago, in the Middle Woodland period, possibly by people connected to the Hopewell. On the ground, it barely reads as anything. The full shape only resolves from above, a vantage the builders themselves never had. They chose quartz on purpose. It is bright, almost luminous, and it would have glittered. They hauled it in piece by piece into an image made for the sky. When archaeologists dug into it, they found almost nothing. One quartz tool, a single cremation burial beneath the chest. No village debris, no clue to the ritual, no name for whatever the bird was. Scholars cannot even agree what kind of bird it is. You can see it today from a stone tower built beside it in the 1930s. Climbing on the mound is not allowed. Someone spent enormous effort to lay out a shining bird for an audience that could only be overhead, and then said nothing else we can hear. Number 11. Casa Grande. The 4-story mud tower with windows for the sun. On the flat Sonoran Desert near Coolidge, Arizona, a building rises straight out of ground where nothing else does. 4 stories tall, about 60 feet wide, with walls of caliche, a natural desert concrete, 4.5 feet thick at the base. The Hohokam raised it around 1350. The Hohokam were master engineers. For 1,000 years, they moved river water through hundreds of miles of canals and farmed a desert. This tower sits at the end of one of those canals. Its 4 walls face the 4 directions. Set into them are holes, placed with care. One opening in the upper west wall lines up with the sun as it sets on the summer solstice. Others may track the moon, and possibly Orion. It is, in part, a calendar built into a mud skyscraper 700 years ago. Then, within about a century of finishing it, the Hohokam dispersed. Drought, salted soil, floods, upheaval, all proposed, none confirmed. They walked away, and no one can say why. It became the first protected archaeological site in the country in 1892. Since 1932, it has stood under a wide steel canopy, sheltered like a patient. A tower built to read the sky, standing over the fields of people who vanished from it. Number 10. The Bighorn Medicine Wheel. The wheel on the roof of Wyoming. Near the top of Medicine Mountain in Wyoming, at 9,600 feet above the tree line, a wheel of stones lies on bare ground. It is about 80 feet across. A cairn sits at the center. 28 lines of stone radiate out like spokes. Around the rim sit 6 more piles. The stones are small enough to carry by hand. Someone hauled them up a mountain that is under snow most of the year and laid out a wheel that can only be reached in a short summer window. In 1974, an astronomer named Jack Eddy studied it. One extended spoke points to the sunrise on the summer solstice. Other cairns line up with the rising points of 3 of the brightest stars in the sky, Aldebaran, Regal, and Sirius. Its exact age is unknown. Best estimates put it within the last several centuries. It is one of dozens of medicine wheels across the northern plains, and it gave the whole family its name. It is also still a sacred site for the Crow, the Cheyenne, the Lakota, and others, which is one reason it has never been excavated. 28 spokes. The number of days in a lunar month. Whether that is design or coincidence is exactly the kind of thing the mountain will not tell you. Number 9. The Miami Circle. A 2,000-year-old ring under downtown Miami. In 1998, a developer bought a lot at the mouth of the Miami River, tore down a 1950s apartment block, and prepared to build luxury condos. A required survey got in the way. In the pale limestone bedrock, archaeologists found holes. 24 of the largest formed a circle 38 feet across, cut cleanly into solid rock. It is the only prehistoric structure carved into bedrock known anywhere in the eastern United States. Burned wood in the fill dated to roughly 1,800 to 2,000 years old. The circle is attributed to the Tequesta, whose village stood at the river mouth. The holes are read as post holes, the footprint of a round building, possibly ceremonial. Then there is the anomaly. Among the artifacts were 2 axe heads of basalt. Basalt is not native to Florida. The nearest source is about 600 miles away, near Macon, Georgia. Someone carried volcanic stone the length of a state with no wheel and no pack animal. The public fought to save it. Florida bought the site for $26.7 million, and in 2009, it became a National Historic Landmark. Today, it is a small riverside park, the circle reburied to protect it, ringed by glass towers. 2,000 years of history, nearly bulldozed for a condo, sitting quiet between the skyscrapers. Number 8. The Blythe Intaglios. Giants drawn for an audience in the sky. North of Blythe, California, near the Arizona line, the Colorado desert is flat, dark, and nearly empty. Scratched into that ground are 6 enormous figures. Human forms. 4-legged animals. A coiled spiral. The largest human is 171 feet long. They were made by scraping away the dark, sun-varnished surface to expose lighter soil beneath, then lining the edges with the stone removed. Up close, on the ground, they are almost impossible to make out. From the air, they snap into focus. That is the puzzle. The people who made them had no way to fly. They built figures whose full shape they could never see. It is the same riddle that surrounds Peru's Nazca lines. No one is sure who made them or when. Estimates run from a few centuries to 2,000 years and wider on either side. The Mojave and Cation of the lower Colorado River connect the human figures to Mastamho, the creator of life. They were nearly unknown outside the region until 1931, when a pilot looked down and saw them. During the Second World War, tanks training nearby rolled across some of the figures, leaving tire scars that are still there. Today they sit behind fences, best seen from above. People drew giants into the earth for something overhead. Then they left, and never told us who was meant to be looking. We opened this video on a butte in New Mexico. With a blade of light we managed to break within a decade of finding it. If that one got you, tell me in the comments and drop a like. It genuinely helps these places reach more people. The back half of this list is where it stops being strange and starts being staggering. Number 1 is still coming. Number 7. The Winnemucca Lake Petroglyphs. Older than the pyramids, and nobody can read them. About 35 miles northeast of Reno lies a dead lake. Winnemucca Lake is a cracked, dry basin now, drained for good by water projects in the 1930s. On limestone boulders at its edge are deep carvings, chains of diamonds, concentric circles, zigzags, shapes like trees and leaves. For a long time, no one could date them. Then, in 2013, researchers found a way. When the lake was full, it had submerged these boulders and left crusts of mineral carbonate on them. Dating those crusts bracketed the windows when the rock was exposed and could have been carved. The answer was staggering. The carvings are between 10,500 and 14,800 years old, the oldest dated rock art in North America. At the older end, more than twice the age of the Great Pyramid. They were made near the dawn of human presence here, most likely by early ancestors of the northern Paiute. Ice Age people stood on the newly bared stone and cut these marks. Then the lake rose and sealed the record, which is the only reason we can date them now. And the meaning? Unknown. One team wondered if the shapes are weather, clouds, and lightning. That is a guess. The site sits on Pyramid Lake Paiute Reservation land, and access is restricted, out of respect and to protect it. Some of the first people ever to stand in North America left a message in stone. We have the message. We cannot read a word of it. Number 6. The Newark Earthworks. Geometry that tracks the moon for 18 years. In the town of Newark, Ohio, an octagon of earth connects by causeways to a giant circle. The 8 walls run about 550 feet each and enclose 50 acres. It was built around 2,000 years ago by a culture we call the Hopewell. People with no writing and no metal tools. The octagon is not just big, it is aimed. Its walls and openings line up with the points on the horizon where the moon rises and sets at the extremes of its cycle, a cycle that takes 18.6 years to complete. All 8 of those points are built into the earthwork. To lay that out, the builders had to watch the moon for at least one full cycle, probably several, across generations. Their geometry was standardized, too. The same units appear in earthworks scattered across southern Ohio, including a square whose area matches the circle beside it. Trade goods found here came from the Rockies, the Gulf, and the Appalachians. Some scholars push back on how exact the moon alignments really are. That debate is real. But the geometry and the ambition are not in question. And here is the detail that stops people cold. For most of the last century, this ancient lunar observatory sat under a private golf course. Public access was only fully won after a fight that reached the Ohio Supreme Court. It is a World Heritage Site now, and slowly the fairways are giving it back. 2,000 years ago, someone pressed the rhythm of the moon into the ground, and we nearly kept it as the 9th hole. Number 5. Meadowcroft Rock Shelter. The dig that broke the rulebook on the first Americans. It started with a groundhog. In 1955, a farmer named Albert Miller noticed a burrow on his land in western Pennsylvania, and in the dirt the animal had kicked up, found flint flakes and a stone knife. He kept it quiet for years to protect it. In 1973, an archaeologist named James Ottavasio began to dig. Under a sandstone overhang above a creek, the team went down through layer after layer of human occupation. Fire pits, tools, eventually more than 20,000 artifacts, along with nearly 1 million animal bones and over 1 million plant remains. It is one of the longest continuous records of people anywhere in the Americas. Then the radiocarbon dates came back, and they caused a war. The bottom layers dated to around 16,000 years ago. Some material pushed toward 19,000. That was impossible by the rules of the time. The accepted story said the first Americans were the Clovis people, arriving about 13,000 years ago. Meadowcroft was thousands of years too old. The main objection came from a geoarchaeologist named Vance Haynes, who argued the ancient charcoal might have been contaminated by coal in the local rock, making the dates read too old. Ottavasio held his ground. The fight ran for decades. Then other sites appeared, in Chile, Virginia, South Carolina, New Mexico, all pointing the same way. People were here before Clovis. The dogma cracked. Today, it is a National Historic Landmark, and you can tour the dig undercover. A groundhog turned up 16,000 years of history, and the experts spent a generation arguing over whether to believe it. Number 4. Poverty Point. The mountains of earth built by people who didn't farm. More than 3,000 years ago, in what is now northeastern Louisiana, people moved an estimated 750,000 cubic meters of soil by hand. No wheels, no draft animals, just baskets. They shaped it into 6 enormous concentric ridges, arcing in half circles, and several large mounds, one of them among the biggest in North America. Building on that scale was supposed to require farming, a surplus, a ruling class to command the labor. Poverty Point had none of that. The people who built it were hunter-gatherers. They lived on fish, game, nuts, and wild fruit. There is no evidence of domesticated crops here at all. There is also something missing. No graves. In a region full of burial mounds, this vast complex holds no human remains. Whatever it was for, it was not that. It sat at the center of a trade network that pulled in more than 70 tons of stone and minerals from as far as 800 miles away. Recent research reframes it as a gathering place, foragers coming together, maybe seasonally, from across the southeast, united by ritual rather than ruled by a chief. That is the current best guess. The core question stands. Why hunter-gatherers moved a small mountain of earth into careful geometry? We do not know. It is a World Heritage Site today, quiet and green, less than 1% of it ever excavated. They built one of the continent's great earthworks and left almost nothing behind to tell us why. Number 3. The Great Serpent Mound. A quarter-mile snake on the rim of a crater. Along a wooded ridge in Adams County, Ohio, a serpent of earth uncoils for 1,348 feet. 7 great coils. A spiraled tail. At the head, an open mouth wrapped around an oval, usually read as an egg. It is the largest serpent effigy on Earth. 2 questions hang over it, and neither is settled. The first is when, and by whom. For over a century, it was credited to the Adena, an early culture. Then, in the 1990s, radiocarbon from charcoal in the mound pointed to around 1070 C, the later Fort Ancient people. Then a 2014 study swung back, proposing 300 BCC and the Adena again. The serpent holds no burials and no grave goods, nothing to pin it down. The authority that manages it now declines to name a firm date at all. One possibility, one culture began it, another repaired it, centuries apart. The second question is where. The serpent lies on top of a strange patch of deformed bedrock, the buried scar of a meteorite impact, roughly 300 million years old. Its head also aligns with the sunset on the summer solstice. So the largest earthen snake in the world was laid out on the rim of an ancient crater, aimed at the solstice, by builders we cannot name, in a century we cannot fix. You can see it today from a tower in a small state memorial, the coils resolving as you climb. A signature written in earth, unsigned and undated, on the one patch of ground for miles that a rock from space had already marked. Number 2. The Chaco Canyon Sun Dagger. The blade of light we broke by walking on it. Chaco Canyon in remote northwestern New Mexico is one of the hardest places in the lower 48 to reach, a long, rough dirt road into stark high desert. 1,000 years ago, it was the center of a world. The ancestral Puebloans built great houses here, laid a dead straight road running north, and aligned their architecture to the sun and the moon. Near the top of a butte called Fajada, 3 heavy slabs of sandstone lean against a cliff. Behind them, carved into the rock, are 2 spirals. We opened this video here, so here is the fuller picture. At noon on the summer solstice, a single blade of light passes between the slabs and cuts straight down through the center of the large spiral. At the winter solstice, 2 blades frame it. At the equinoxes, a blade crosses the smaller spiral. The shadows even track the moon across its 18-year cycle. A solar and lunar clock, cut into a cliff. An artist named Anna Sofair founded in 1977. Within a few years, the attention it drew brought foot traffic to the slope. The ground compacted, the slabs shifted. The dagger that had struck true for 1,000 years fell out of alignment, and it has never returned. There is honest debate about how much of that precision was intended, but the phenomenon was real, and today it survives mostly on film. The canyon itself emptied around the 12th century during a 50-year drought. The butte is closed now. We found a 1,000-year-old clock, and we broke it almost the moment we understood what it was. Number 1. Cahokia, the American city bigger than London that simply vanished. Stand on the flat floodplain east of the Mississippi at dawn. The grass is wet, mist sits low over the ground. In front of you the land rises, not a hill, but something with edges, something made, a broad flat-topped pyramid of earth climbing 100 feet into the sky. You start up the steps. 154 of them. At the top the plain opens out, and in the far distance the skyline of modern St. Louis catches the light. You are standing on the largest earthwork in the Americas, and almost no one you know has heard its name. This is Monk's Mound, the heart of Cahokia. Its base covers about the same footprint as the Great Pyramid of Giza. Every basket of that earth was carried up by hand. Around it once stood a city. Beginning around 1050, something drew thousands of people to this spot, and they built fast. A planned metropolis. As many as 120 mounds. A central plaza the size of 45 football fields. A ring of tall wooden posts that tracked the sun. At its height, around 1250, Cahokia held between 10 and 20,000 people. It was larger than London at the same moment in history. And then it came apart. By 1400, the city was empty. Not just Cahokia. The whole region drained of people so thoroughly that archaeologists have a name for the void it left. They call it the vacant quarter. No one can say why. Drought, flooding, the exhaustion of the land, deforestation, war, some slow unraveling of whatever held it together. Every explanation has been offered, and none has been proven. The Mississippians left no writing. They left mounds and silence, and we are still revising the basics. Recent work suggests a plaza long thought to be a gathering ground was underwater much of the year. The whole site is open today. A World Heritage Site, roughly 80 mounds still standing, a reconstructed sun calendar, Monk's Mound waiting at the center. A city rose here, greater than any in America, until New York and Philadelphia centuries later. People filled it, climbed these steps, watched the sun from the posts. Then they left, generations before Columbus ever saw the coast, and took the reason with them. The mound is still here. It has all the time in the world to keep the secret. There are more of these than a single list can hold. Stone chambers in New England, effigy mounds across the Midwest, whole abandoned pueblos in the Southwest. My own favorite is the sun dagger, because it is the rare mystery we solved and ruined in the same breath. Which one got you, and what did we leave off? Tell me below, and subscribe for the next one.